I'll call the Madison County Industrial Development Authority meeting this time. I think we've got a full quorum.
Yes, sir.
You give minutes.
Board, in your board package, there are minutes of the July 25th, 2018 meeting, which is the last meeting of the authority. Make a motion, second, have the minutes, please.
Second.
I second.
All those approved.
And I abstain. Did you want them read? Did everybody get copies? Did you want them read? I had you presented and also me because I was abstaining too.
Minutes in. Goodness. Oh, I have an election of officers. Who's in?
John.
All right. I've introduced myself to everyone, but to the extent that we have anybody watching remotely, I'm Sean Gregg. I've taken over from Frank Thomas as the Madison County Attorney. One of the things we need to do tonight is elect the officers of the Industrial Development Authority for Madison County. The current officers are Jim Graves as the chairman. There's a vacancy in the vice chairman, and Dudley Patty has been serving as secretary treasurer. The incumbents have all agreed to serve another term if everyone else is willing to have them do that. It may be appropriate in your deliberations to elect a vice chairman and vote as you deem fit for the offices of chairman and secretary treasurer. It would be appropriate for someone to nominate a slate of officers, or we can nominate position by position. It would be appropriate to open the floor to nominations from the membership.
No, motion from the floor for chairman.
I want to make a motion to nominate Jimmy Graves as chairman, Bill Price as vice chairman, and Dudley Patty as secretary treasurer. I second that.
Are there any further nominations? Declare the nomination process closed, and it would be appropriate for someone to move to vote on the officers as presented, the candidates as presented. Call for the vote. Any opposed? Well, congratulations. Y'all have, Mr. Graves, Mr. Price, and Mr. Patty will serve in the offices respectively of chairman, vice chairman, and secretary treasurer of the Madison County Industrial Development Authority.
You want to give something on the, Jack, you want to give?
I can maybe give you an overview and then use some votes. The Board of Supervisors asked this body to act as a conduit for financing county projects and refinancing existing county debt. In total, this is just over $25 million. It's not a small thing for money. It represents virtually all the county's debt, all we expect to have in the foreseeable future. We have with us tonight the House Counsel with Sean Gregg. We have Kyle Law from the financial advisor at Davenport Company, who maybe walk you through how we got to where we are with the decision on this. On the telephone there, we have Jesse. I can answer legal questions from bond counsel's side of things. Some of you might not be familiar with this, but this bond counsel thing is a specialty legal field that is used to do closing for these types of transactions. So, I suppose what would be appropriate if the board, I think, authority agrees, is to ask Mr. Fox to come up and say a few words.
Can you tell us what we need to do?
Yes, sir. Well, again, as Jack mentioned, I'm Kyle Laux with Davenport Company out of Richmond, and so we thank you for taking a couple minutes out of a nice, I don't know if it's spring or summer, we're kind of in that middle ground here. But again, to Jack's point, what we're really talking about this evening and what we're asking of you as a board and as a body is to serve as what we call a conduit issuer, which Jesse on the phone could probably elaborate a little bit more on the legal side of things, but really serving as the county and the Board of Supervisors' way to go access funding, access loans, if you will, to fund a variety of capital projects, which are primarily anchored by the renovations to the primary school, new E911 radio system, and then some renovations to the admin center. So that's really the core and the anchor of what it is we're talking about. The loan we're talking about, it's about $16.5 million or thereabouts is what we call that new money portion of it. And so you may see within your resolution, there's we've kind of labeled these as A, a B, and a C. And the A bond is for those new money capital projects. To Jack County Administrator's point, starting really late last year, early this year, we went through a long planning process with the board and kind of working through the budgetary and other aspects of how it is we go finance and pay for the primary school plus the radio station, or excuse me, the radio system, and the renovations to the admin building. And so that's been borne out over the last several months. The way we're going to finance that is through what we call a direct bank loan. So simply stated, we've got a bank that we've gone through a competitive bidding process with, and that is who will provide that financing of roughly $16.5 or so million to do what we call the new money projects. That'll be at a fixed interest rate. It's been approved fully by the board. And so what we're really asking you to do is to serve in that conduit issuer role that really just allows the Board of Supervisors, by virtue of the way the laws work in Virginia, for lack of a better term, to access the markets and get this financing in place. The other two pieces of this, we're going to refinance 2 existing county loans. Jack mentioned that is basically all of the existing debt that the county has. And so all of this has kind of been packaged together as one financing. Again, been vetted by the board a couple different times, fits within the budget, fits within financial policies. All of this went through a competitive bidding process with banking institutions, a bank called Sterling Bank that ended up being the winner. The interest rate for the loan, it's like 3 different loans. They're all fixed rates. They range from about a 2.37 up to about a 3%. The county will have prepayment ability in the future. And these are being structured as what's called lease revenue bonds. And so you've probably seen that within your resolution. And those are very, very common for counties across Virginia. Somewhat ironically, maybe not ironically, but Orange County, just down the road, their IDA met tonight at 5:30. You're at 7, they were at 5:30, and approved a very similar financing for some of their capital projects. So this is pretty routine across Virginia. Realize it's been a while since maybe you got together as a group, but this is not at all unusual for IDAs and EDAs across the state to serve in this conduit role. I think importantly, and the lawyers can maybe underscore this, you serving in this role is purely a pass-through. So the IDA as a body doesn't have any recourse on these loans. You as individuals don't have any recourse on these loans. And Sean may want to sort of underscore that from a legal perspective. But this truly is serving as a legal conduit. It just said the way the laws and structures work in Virginia, that's how we go about structuring these financings. So again, the board approved this on Tuesday evening. The bank is all lined up, and we are set to move to closure over the balance of the month. Interest rates are fixed and set. And so with your blessing of this resolution tonight, that really is the last approval piece that we need in order to bring this to closure. So with that, I think you might have had access to my maybe overly long-winded presentation at the board a little while ago, so I'll try and keep it much shorter than that particular presentation. But I would be happy to answer any questions that you have at this point, or if Sean or I think Jesse Bausch with Sands Anderson is also on the phone from a legal perspective. So again, any questions that you have or anything else that Jack or the chair or anybody would like me to elaborate on, I would be happy to.
Contract, do we need the money?
Your name again?
Kyle Laux, yes sir. Mr. Price, nice to see you.
Thank you. I enjoyed your report. I watched the video. You're mentioning 25 million.
Yep.
This is 16 million. The old bond was courthouse and some other things, roughly 16. I guess it's been paid down now, so it's total 25.
That's correct. That's correct.
In your presentation.
In and around that range, yeah.
In your presentation, you put specific emphasis on the fact that one of your cases was prepayment at 5 years and one at 10.
Correct.
And you seem to prefer the 5 year. My question is, has Madison County ever prepaid one of these bonds or loans or financial obligations?
Yeah, you have. One of the two loans we're actually refinancing right now.
Not refinance, prepaid. Totally.
Oh, prepaid totally?
Prepaid, yes.
I don't know the answer to that. But you would have that ability.
Does anybody know?
I don't know, but I doubt it. I think it's regular for local government to
Yeah.
come up with that much money to deal with those.
It is pretty rare.
Not
When you
until the very end.
Mr. Price, one point of clarification though, if it is refinanced, the refinancing includes as part of it a prepayment of the existing obligation. So to the extent we've done that in the past, the answer is yes, we have prepaid these. But do counties pay them in full early? Typically, the experience is no, they do not.
Yeah, and I think maybe I can add some color if it's helpful. I'll be happy to stop whenever you want, but it's pretty rare for a county to do that. It can happen, and certainly we care about that. The way these loans work, it's more like a mortgage than anything else. So you've got a fixed dollar amount, you've got a fixed interest rate, and you're financing, in this case, so renovations to a primary school, administration building, E911, all those things have long, useful lives. And so within public finance, whether it's in Virginia, across the country, there's a concept we think about in terms of called intergenerational equity, meaning sort of spreading the useful life and the benefit of that asset across the folks that'll benefit from it for years to come. So it's not to say you can't do it, meaning you can't pay it off. It's somewhat rare, but that may be more than you asked for.
Tonight, it's been on both sides of this equation.
Yes, sir.
I have applied for the received an ROD, and now I'm on the board. So, and in the last 30-some years, only 3 entities have come before here looking for industrial review authority approval. Madison Service, Flower Park, and Great Forest. Our goal, as I'm told, we're just to decide, can Madison County pay this loan? That's the only reason we exist. Am I wrong?
Well, I would even say the board, I mean, the Board of Supervisors has really said they feel comfortable they can pay the loan.
Sure, they can tax us at any rate they want. They make a decision, good or bad, and they tax us to pay it off. Entities like my company, Woodbury Forest, Plow and Hart, we have to do due diligence to be sure we can pay it off. So, you know, yeah, the county can pay it off, there's no doubt, because they can tax us for it. If that's our only decision, there isn't a decision, the county can do it. Correct?
In our opinion, yes, sir.
I was wondering a little bit in the presentation why there was so much emphasis on the prepayment. Talking about such a low interest rate and kept talking about between the 5 and 10 years on the prepayment and stuff, the early payment. I didn't understand why the presentation had so much emphasis on it. I don't understand why that was such a selling point.
Yeah, so I think there's 2 points there. It's the prepayment flexibility, but also the interest rate. And so one of the things we liked a lot, if you listen to the presentation about this particular financing structure, is we know what the interest rates are. When you're referring to the 10-year option, that was waiting to go through a couple different state programs that won't be in the marketplace for months to come. And so the prepayment certainly was a factor, and we think it's important, we think it's useful, and we've seen that, kind of play out over the years, as many years as we've been doing this, and it's a long time. That's been useful to local governments from a flexibility standpoint. But I think the other factor there, or one of the other factors in terms of thinking about it, was the knowledge of what the interest rates were for this particular structure versus kind of having to wait, not having any control over the timing for months, especially on the school project. And so that was another important factor in it.
The option to put any of this low float?
We've not recommended that, given how low rates are right now. Certainly you could go do a variable rate financing, but again, not common for most local governments.
I'd like to, Mr. Price, I'd like to hear once again what your interpretation of what we're doing is.
I have serious concerns about the money the county is going to spend. But I've been told as an authority, our only duty is to decide whether the county can pay this loan back, yes or no.
I would like someone to talk about that, because I don't think that's what I'm doing here. Maybe I don't know, maybe I don't understand.
Guys, this is Jesse Madison, and I'm going to pipe in here for a minute, if that's helpful. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. This is, as Kyle was saying, this is a conduit financing, and so the question is, what does that mean, conduit financing? These documents and this bond is set up so that the only source of payment for it is the payments that the county makes on its lease, which is a lease ultimately of the school property, or the 2 school property. The bond itself recites that it's payable only from those leases. It is not payable in any way from any other funds of the IDA. It is in no way an obligation that the county, which is the IDA itself, ultimately it has some of the funds for the 2 schools other than those payments. The bond itself, the 3 bond that is payable only from the lease. If you look at the not payable in any way, any other funds that is in no way an obligation. It's only payable from the payment. It doesn't count as debt of the IDA or county debt for constitutional purposes. But it is set up in this structure where it's a lease so that is some source of payment that can support the bond. The resolution also provides, if you look in section 2 of the resolution, that basically provides, everything here is only payable by the county. If anything doesn't get paid or doesn't get done, it's not the authority that's on the hook, it's the county that's on the hook. And also in the lease agreement, if you have that handy, see if I can find where it's at. Section 9.4 of the lease agreement basically says, and I can just read it to y'all. The section is called liability of the authority. Notwithstanding any provision of the bonds or the basic agreements contrary, which is called basic agreement and all the others. The obligations of the authority under the bond and the basic agreement are not general obligations of the authority. They are limited obligations payable solely from payment of basic rent and additional rent. No director or officer of the authority shall be personally liable on the authority's obligations herein. The authority shall not be liable for the actions of the county as its agent or for any actions of the county under the basic. And so that's the language that we have. I mean, we have language in literally all these deals that we do to make it perfectly clear to the, the banks and any other investors who are purchasing these bonds that this is just an obligation where they're looking solely at the county as the credit. And they're, they sort of evaluate them on this basis. They look at the county financials, and they look at whatever the kind of collateral that the county or the school board that can provide, and that is really the security that they're evaluating. It's not a question of, they're never really looking at what the IDA's finances are. In most cases, the IDA itself is purely an entity that is funded by the county anyway. So there's no wherewithal of the IDA itself, and probably 90% of the cases that I'm involved in, where any kind of bank or other lender is saying, we're looking at the IDA as a source of payment. It's really only, the county and whatever kind of collateral that the county or the schools. Now, I don't know if that answers that question exactly, but I just kind of wanted to make sure all that stuff was laid out there and then we get it together.
What I think I hear you saying is, I think we have less than what you're saying. I think all we're agreeing to is to say, the Board of Supervisors thinks this is a good idea, and we're dumb enough to say yes. Because I have a lot of concerns too, but our only thing is to say, they think it's a good idea, and we're gonna be this conduit issue. I think.
Some gentlemen on the
I
phone,
would
what's his
say
name?
that's fair. Like I said, it's not y'all's credit, it's the county's credit. It's really.
Well, but Mr.
Yes.
Price, I don't think it's all about credit. What I thought I heard you say was that we're saying that we believe the county can pay.
I think that's our only,
I don't think we're saying we can even believe that I don't even think we're saying we believe they can pay.
I believe they can.
Yeah, I will.
That's right.
We don't like it.
No, I mean, but I think, the board has spent a great deal of time in this and vetted this and numerous committees and explored all the options and looked at everything. And I think you've got to have trust in your elected officials. Whether or not you agree with the decision is one thing. They've already researched it, made the decision for it. And like you said, I think it's our job as the authority to be the conduit to allow the loan to proceed.
I think it's that simple. In my head, it is.
Did I hear you correct? We're to always trust our elected officials.
Well, if you don't, you do something about it every 2 years.
And Mr. Price, I think one term,
One question on the loan.
yes, sir. Yep.
Does the county make monthly mortgage payments?
They make semi-annual payments twice a year.
Go into a sinking fund.
They don't.
So that fund, the money they pay is protected.
It is protected. That's right. There's not a sinking fund, just make sure you heard me right, but the county is basically bound to appropriate on an annual basis enough to make the debt service payments on this loan. But I think, Mr. Price, you made a comment earlier that the county doesn't have to do due diligence, and I would disagree with that comment. Due diligence. I think you implied that, and if I misheard you, I apologize. But yeah, over the course of basically this calendar year through the budget, All of this, the cash flows, the budget, et cetera, have been vetted by the board.
I may disagree with various things.
Yes, sir.
I don't think they believe they didn't do due diligence. I mean, your report to back up the fact they have. But
That's my point entirely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep, that's all.
Any more questions? Gentlemen?
The only question that I had, and I recognize that this was as they say, I guess a conduit financing, or legal conduit, a pass-through, the idea received from the county, the resolution, which has been talked about, with support documents, the ground lease agreement, and the assignment agreement, as well as the bond purchase agreements. I don't think that any of us are lawyers to be able to read that. There was a lot of pages, a lot of legalese with it. I was looking for assurances from either the county attorney or our bond counsel, the IDA bond counsel, that everything is in order and it is as represented and it is truly a pass-through. Jesse, you sort of answered some of this in your comments, but I do want to ask this question for purposes of I guess, public information and for verification by this board. That is indeed what is happening, and I do need an attorney to say that's exactly right.
And I think you are exactly right.
One here.
Anybody else got any comments?
Thank you. We appreciate it.
We need to go from there.
It would be appropriate for someone to move to pass the resolution and then present it to you.
No comments from the audience?
Well, in that regard, we need to check and make sure that there is no one, online. I think it would be appropriate to have, yeah, let's have public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to step down briefly, make a comment with the private citizen. Is that appropriate?
That's appropriate. You can do it from where you're sitting, but.
Well, I want to get off camera.
I'm Bill Price, a private citizen, Madison County. Been here many, many years. I agree mostly with what the county government does, but not always, just like anybody else. I've seen decisions made with no consequences. We were told when we renovated the courthouse, it'd be $7 million. It would last us for 50 years. I questioned the chairman of the board at the time, why not go out to Hoover Ridge and build a whole new complex, sheriff's office, the whole ball of wax, and be done with it? Nope, we don't need to. What we're going to do will last us for 50 years. We outgrew it in 5. Sheriff's office, same way. I just watched Main Street be repaved for the second time in the last few years, and the potholes are still there. Every time there's a manhole cover, it's a pothole. You ask somebody, well, it was VDOT, it was the mayor, it was the board of supervisors. Nobody wants to take charge. Nobody wants to take credit. I understand the radios. There's nothing worse than being on a rescue call or a sheriff's department call and you can't communicate back. I understand that. I think $1 million per tower for a radio is pretty exorbitant, but I don't know. I understand the schools, we're mandated by the state, we have to do something. One thing I really take issue with is almost 1.3, it'll probably end up being 1.5 by the time they have a cost override because they overlook something, for an administrative building. If you want it, and I'm told we have to get everybody together. If COVID-19 has taught us anything, it's taught us people can work from home. I wanted to take my business, I wanted to put the credit department, the administration, the bookkeeping all off-site. everybody raised hell. Can't be done. Everybody's got to have access. Since late March, our salespeople have been off-site. We've been setting records. So now what's the argument? People can work off-site. You don't have to be across the hall, down the hall. 1.3 million, probably more like 1.5, what administrative building in little old Madison County is totally unjustified. You want to help the citizens of Madison County? Work on the internet. Other counties are spending bukus of money putting internet into remote areas. I live 3.5 miles west of town. Internet's non-existent. You want to work from home? You can't from downtown Ruth. You can't from Etland. You can't from Graves Mill. You can't make a cell phone call from most of these places. You want to help the county? Spend some money where it counts. I'm sure Jack, Clay, a bunch of them, they'd like to have a nice office building, fancy furniture. Madison County doesn't need that. I'm the CEO of 2 corporations. My office is 10 by 12. Come look at it sometime. What they want is not necessary, folks. I don't like the whole thing, but that's my personal opinion. Thank you very much.
Well, anybody else want to speak?
Bruce, are there any comments online?
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I apologize for not walking over there. I'm walking slow. It'll take me forever. You don't have that kind of time. I'm Clay Jackson, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors. One of the reasons we decided to go with Sterling and the option that we did go with was based on a cash flow projection and trying to make it so that we don't have to overtax people. The county for multiple years has had run a surplus around $1 million. 1.4, I think, was one of the highest. So it becomes a philosophical type of debate whether or not we are overtaxing people, which is unjust. Now, or for multiple years, I've been on the Board of Supervisors for 6 years. First year I was on it, we raised taxes 1 penny. We went without for multiple years. Last year with the reassessment, we raised 4.6 cents. This current year, we raised 1 penny, or this upcoming fiscal year, it's up 1 penny. The school project at Primary, the way that project started, it was a $1.5 million HVAC job. That's how it started. The original projection, we looked at the 1.5, and all it really said was, we've got the same cruddy facility that's substandard, that has fire code violations all the way through it. Tremendous ones that we're putting with some of our youngest citizens in. We started working through the process of the renovation. The original projections were somewhere in between $15 and $16 million. We got very lucky in the public procurement side of things, where we got this price down to $9.1 million. That school hadn't been touched since it was basically built. Not a good scenario. The one that Tina Weaver will talk about is they had trouble getting the carpet off. There's been thousands of kids walking over it. It's what happens. Investing just $1.5 million into the HVAC seemed like a poor investment. The radio system, it's not a mandate. The school is not a mandate. It was a poor investment just to do HVAC, and we knew we had underlying problems. The radio system is something that pertains to public safety. The system that they have, or they are proposing, and we are currently implementing, will cover guaranteed 95% of Madison County. We're currently looking at a new site that is up in Etland. It's going to cost us roughly about $1 million to put up that tower in the site, just one tower. You talk about public internet or internet. By us putting up that tower, it gives us the ability to maybe partner and offset our monthly cost to the landowner and our initial investment by renting some of that space out, which there will be a lot of space on this tower, to internet and cell phone providers that will cover a huge other part of Madison County. We're hoping we can do that with the tower out at Hoover Ridge as well, potentially. I ran for the Board of Supervisors three times. I think I've done it 4 now. I got lucky 2 of the times. I got real good at losing on the front side. I sat on the Planning Commission, I think, for 6 years prior to that. I came to the Board of Supervisors meeting when there was no public, and sat right in the middle row for years. When I sit up there next to where Jimmy is sitting, I can tell the same as when I was sitting here when we are bored, because people immediately start looking at that ceiling tile. The same one that has been here the 12 years that I've been involved in Madison County government. Jimmy Graves gave me, on a piece of loose leaf paper, drawn in pencil, the plan for renovating this facility years ago. That was being talked about 40 years ago. I just made the comment to Bill that I'll be his age and we'll be talking about renovating this facility again. You're looking very good, by the way. I'm not insinuating anything, but you are. You still got more hair in you. I think we have an opportunity here. I'm not looking for fancy. I apologize, I look like hell right now. I've been in a cattle barn. My office is in the middle of a cattle barn. The ceiling fell in on it, so I renovated it because I was tired of cats up on top of my office. I agree we don't need fancy, but we have very few opportunities to take advantage of to do some renovation. The architecture firm that we've hired has proposed multiple things that are just too opulent for Madison County. We don't need it. I think half of the beauty of living here is the simplicity of it. We're not looking for fancy. We're looking for probably once in my lifetime renovation. I'd like to see that happen. Bring up the courthouse. Fine, this is the first time I've heard about the courthouse in public talk in like 2 years, which is great. We're doing renovation to it right now. The foresight that they did on that courthouse was not well thought out. There's glass that must be replaced. There's security measures that were poorly implemented on the front side. There's courtrooms that were put into place that had no room for expansion and additional court flow load. Hopefully, by doing this admin center deal, and hopefully liquidating the property that's up at Thrift Road that has very little value to us in any measure, and no buildings that are worth anything. They're just falling down. This gives us some stability for the rest of my life, certainly. I think it is a good investment. We have a low interest rate. The prepayment gives us a little bit of flexibility. I don't see us coming up with a lump sum, but when I negotiate deals on financing, I always try to get that prepayment as early as possible. Just so that if I do get some money in pocket, I can put it into that. Maybe the opportunity will present itself. We're not trying to overtax Madison County. Each penny on the tax rate per $200,000 is $20. We know people are having a hard time. We know about our demographics here and the elderly population on fixed incomes. Something we're aware of constantly. Now is an opportunity to take advantage of some financing at a low interest rate, do some renovations. Appreciate you all listening to my lot.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you.
The 1.28 million, is that just in this building?
This building and the health department that we've already basically told to vacate down the hill. Up here, you'll have, what is it, it's 3 departments. And I apologize, it's escaping me which ones are up here. We work with the staff, constitutional officers that will have these 2. Who's up here, Hobbs?
My office, finance, and the registrar.
There you go.
and down the hill will be zoning and building. The lead treasurer and the commissioner of revenue. And it'll also, just another one, I give the registrar a tremendous amount of credit, Mrs. Eames, or the first Mrs. Eames, that was the registrar. She told us they needed more space for their voting equipment. And we had a conference room down in Crickford. I remember meeting in it. Mrs. Eames said they needed more space. Just lock the door. That was the last time we had a meeting in that room. We do all our budget sessions, like work sessions, and we do them once a week for about, 12 weeks almost, and at the fire hall. It would be super, super nice to have a conference room that are in our facilities. I'm not saying we need something fancy, but we don't have anywhere to do that. I mean, this is it. This really is. And I like it here. I like this. Let's do something. That was my.
Anybody else got any questions?
If there's nothing further, it would be appropriate to move either to approve or disapprove the resolution.
Is there a motion to approve or disapprove? I make a motion that we approve the resolution as it was presented. Motion? Second to the motion? Second. All those. Aye. Any opposed?
What was the vote?
1, 2, 3.
All aye.
Aye.
No, I didn't vote.
No, sir.
So you abstained?
Yes.
You can't try.
6. Okay, 6 votes.
Abstained.
Anything else we need to bring up?
I'll be really brief. So you guys have met maybe once a year, I guess. We may have the opportunity to meet more often. And without going into closed session, I can't go into details, but there is a possibility of a project coming up when we may need to meet. And then also, I have to give a proposal for some of the CARES Act money possibly going out to businesses for grants. And that would also be funded. And a further question on that, would this body be a part of who makes the grants? We don't discuss that. In some places they do, in some places it's a EDA.
Yeah, congratulations. Sounds like that to. You're supposed to spend it on coronavirus relief and those that need protective equipment and separating employees from not being on each other, this and that. There's a number of things that we get to laptops, so forth. On the side, there are provisions for like to see local governments see the money into social service agencies for relief and home benefits and all these different things. But Tracy's talked about this program where we would do for business assistance, some sort of, I suppose, like program that would help businesses stay open or help businesses time to open that kind of food. You do not have that figured out. Tracy, yes, you have to make a proposal. But, I guess the concept is if this does develop that, we can ask the IDA to be more heavily involved. Now, the difficult thing for Tracy is that it's not the tradition in Madison County to be chasing these programs. It's common practice in other areas. It's just not, just hasn't been done in this year.
Yes, areas. For instance, Culpeper has a full-time person dedicated to solely doing this. So what we're looking at in all of the smaller counties, we're sort of working together, so we kind of have a uniform type situation. To give you an idea, I sent just before we knew about this part of it, doing a proposal. Eligibility, 1 or more locations in Madison, 1 to 15 total employees, have annual gross receipts less than $1 million, an operation over a year, for-profit business, current on taxes, documented business revenue loss as a result of COVID-19 to exceed grant amounts. And then preference can be given to certain classes of small businesses, hospitality, entertainment, retail, trade, and employment. My issue is I don't want to be that person. I have to deal with these people, and at the time I don't want to present it. And the examples of businesses that could be excluded, banks, obviously, financial institutions, home-based businesses, so those people are excluding. And then they've got certain grant amounts for 1 to 10 employees, 11 to 25 employees, 26 to 50. The use of funds would be payroll, rent or mortgage, insurance, equipment, inventory, other critical expenses, adaptive costs such as e-commerce, equipment, website creation, or upgrade. And then disbursement options would be IDA. Program managed, staff developed and managed, and then also through our Central Virginia partnership, Virginia Community Capital Community Investment Collaborative will run the grants, and he's talking to me about that, but if we ever get to that point, for 3% of the grant, which can also come out of CARES Act fund. Something we've never done.
County can take the money to pay for one of them tires, couldn't it?
It's not COVID related, but that's the thing.
Yes, if you had home doing work on the laptop to make it accessible to
We would take
everybody.
all of it. But the schools are going for it, the schools are gonna be going for it, emergency services, out of that same pot of money.
What the business that that names do you anticipate applying to? What, restaurants, what?
Restaurants, gyms, possibly wineries, depending on what their gross receipts would be. So, and that's just one piece of it, and the other one is a possible project with the state that is coming, that is a definite that's coming down the pipe soon, which is a good thing.
Is the government giving help guidelines, examples, forms?
They're a very gray area.
Now they're thinking about 24 months, but it hadn't been. They don't know.
I think it's been signed.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
So,
President.
Yeah, the one for 24, what, usually?
Yeah, payroll, if that was 75% or 60%, which is, again, minimum.
Mr. Chairman, this CARES Act funding is something new, and I guess you could say we're still learning, or we're making it up as you go. We're still getting a grip on it. There might be a lot of other ideas on how this money can be spent. I think we decided on the supervisor, so we're trying to come up with these ideas, fleshing out as we go. Mr. Price's question, one of the ideas for this CARES money is to set up hotspots in areas around the county where we can get internet in whatever way and buy the equipment and offer Wi-Fi where we can. So there's another proposal that we that is one idea with money. And the idea is that we'll be doing this in about the next 6 months. And the justification is that if we provide this service, so folks can work not in the office but at home, then we're spread. So Jack, got that.
if they don't open schools in the fall, we don't know about that yet. You can't teach kids at home, because they don't have internet. Some schools say we're gonna give our kids strong laptops, and they can study from home. That doesn't do a pretty good where I live.
It was an idea where they were going to put Wi-Fi routers in school buses. So all the school bus drivers can have Wi-Fi. There's a lot of different ideas. We're not there yet.
You've got $1.2 million to the county, the school additionally got $300K. Gary, the school's additionally got 300K. Theirs has a little bit more strings attached, and they get a longer time period to spend it. The process we're setting in place right now is to start assembling ideas on what this money can be spent for. Of course, the first things before we go into the private sector is what needs to happen in-house. We have about 30K worth of expenses that we've already spent, which is very minimal stuff, mostly PPE type of stuff. And then to reopen the courts, we had to spend some money on things that judges need. We're trying to figure out how to do it. The hot spots that we know that the schools are going to come to us and ask us for, it's looking like well over, what's that number, 160K, so they can get computers for all the children. The way that they did it last year without the computers was they gave them just regular packets, like old timey type of staple type packets. What the superintendent's telling me just now for school or kids that do not have internet accessibility is they can put lessons on zip drives, and that will suffice currently. They've purchased, I think, 25 hotspots and extended Wi-Fi out from all of their facilities. So if you sit in the high school parking lot now, you can pick up Wi-Fi, internet, or password unprotected. But all those things we need to deal with in-house costs that are strictly related to COVID. Then we can start talking about breaking it out in the private sector if there are actual needs and metrics can be met to assess that need.
My last thought on the internet, like Madison County the way it is, without the internet. If you start putting internet all over the county, the cities are going to flock down, real estate prices are going to go up. And Madison County will never be the same. So,
What do we want, folks? Thank you, Bill.
Jimmy, I have a question. I was just wondering, in this particular case, as my first meeting, I understand we're conduit, but I'm wondering if there's not some way to have some more detail about what's happening. I know we can't go to all the meetings, no way, but I see these numbers and how could that possibly cost that much? Seems like we should have a little more. If nothing else, you feel like you're doing more than just sitting there and
But if we work on a memo that we can start putting together, I don't know how often we need to do it. Just some key stuff. Heck, I'm easy to get in touch with. I'll give cell phone numbers to anybody out there. Party will answer pretty much everywhere as well. If we put together some type of memo and if you've got questions or additional information needed, would that be helpful at all?
I think anything more than what we got. Because I asked Tracy about the admin center and you sent me a link to some drawings.
Let's see if we can put something together and get it out there. We need to, this is my first meeting with you all.
Well, this was not normal.
We need to be putting together some.
I know it wasn't normal. Numbers are huge.
Anybody else got any questions or answers for us?
Well, I got one comment is the fact that this body right here are some of the most connected individuals in the county. And if you guys are in the dark, my goodness, and we struggle on the planning commission how to get information out to people. I'm open for suggestions. Gracie has covered this thing in the paper pretty well, because what I like to do is I like to read the paper when it comes out to see if it's reflective of what I heard sitting in here, and it has been. She's done a great job. Maybe most people don't get the paper anymore. But any suggestions that you guys have that help us get information out to people, I'm all ears on that because it's critical.
Mr. Rice, I think you got a good point. It's just that we've been working on the school project almost since I started. We started on the administration building project. Heavy asphalt, sessions here with the architects and all that. So that's Madison. Might be stuff out there that you're not sharing, so it's.
Just even a summary, I know some of it's in the newspaper, but some time ago, you may or may not have read that issue, but anyway.
Sure.
Cardi, I can answer your question. Most folks don't give a damn until they get the tax bill. You have a budget meeting here and how many seats are filled up?
Not many.
This year,
You have a meeting on the noise ordinance about dogs.
Yep.
What happened?
Wall to wall.
Well,
I would suggest. people
Combine
that are
them.
interested- People that are interested, go to the website and have your information there. Yeah, most people don't get the paper. Takes me about a minute and a half to go through the email. That's it.
Agreed.
So put it on the website. If somebody's interested, there it is. If they don't know it, it's their own fault.
If you can get the.
right.
If you get it.
Here, motion for adjournment.
I move.
We'll leave.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank y'all, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you. Coming up.
Is at the back.